Willits is our town. Always has been, and always will be. Like any other town, it changes just a little bit from time to time. So we're here to let you know some of the things that are going on in your town.
Hi, I'm Shari Williams-Andrews, your host for This Week in Willits, where we always learn more about our town and its recent and upcoming events. The gloves came off at the Garden Forum held at the Willits Grange on March 27th. 6 distinguished gardeners from the Willits area regaled the audience with the joys and perils of gardening in our challenging climate. The event was hosted by Well. Whether you're planning a garden or you're a beginning gardener, be sure to watch this episode for some useful tips. Next up, pesky pork chop pinching possums returned to the neighborhood in this pedestrian postulating producer puff piece. Okay, let's go to the Willits Grange Hall for the gardening forum.
This is not an easy climate or environment to garden in. This is a tough climate. So not only the climate, but there are a significant number of animals in our environment that are set up and happy to eat your entire garden for lunch.
But I thought today I'd talk about soil. Some of you are beginning gardeners, and I thought I would focus on what your soil needs to produce good food for your family. I thought I'd talk about the difference between dirt and soil. So dirt. We walk on dirt, we drive on dirt, we park on dirt, we ignore dirt. We cannot afford to ignore soil. Soil is what grows the plants that produce the food that we want to eat, so we have to pay attention to soil and treat it right. So what does soil need? If I were to ask that just generally and have people just shout out answers, the thing that would probably come out would be nitrogen, fertilizer. In fact, those things are far down on the list. The most important thing soil needs is air. Doesn't matter what else it has. If there's not enough air, nothing will grow. So the soil textbooks will tell you that air, that's good healthy soil for growing crops, needs 50% air. You need to add air. A rototiller is not a good thing for adding air. A rototiller will add air at the beginning, and if you use it again and again and again, gradually down below the area that the rototiller is loosening will become compact, and you'll end up with compact soil 6 or 7 or 10 inches down, which prevents the roots from going down. And root diagrams will show you that roots grow 18 inches, 24 inches, even 5 feet deep. A beet root can go 10 feet deep. We pull out a beet, we think, oh, there's the root. But in fact, there's a lot more root material contributing to the growth of the beet. So the soil needs air. The best way to do that is with a spade and a fork.
Hi, I'm Michael Foley. My farm is Green Uprising Farm. We've been here for just 3.5 years. And we inherited an old homestead. It's got 2.5, 3 acres of old orchard, a lot of apple trees we can't identify, nobody can identify. A couple we can identify, Bartlett pears, Danjou pears. But I'm mainly a vegetable gardener. My wife, Sarah, does a lot of work on those trees. She does a lot of work with the goats. And I tend to focus on the vegetables because they don't talk back. The goats do. And the trees kind of do too. One of the keys to winter gardening is timing. Timing. You've got to plant things early enough. Most things, aside from garlic, if you plant them in late November or December, they're just not going to grow. They're going to sit there. They will sit there and they'll sit there and they'll sit there. until February at least. And then they'll take off. And depending on what they are, they may or may not bolt. So what you want to do is time your crops so that they are on their way to maturity by the time the short days, the really short days roll around in November and December and January. And then you can harvest, year-round. That's difficult to do. So timing is really important, and of course it depends on what you're growing. Timing is important outdoors too, because you want things to be hardy enough to withstand the winter. And there's a surprising number of crops that can go through freezing and thawing and freezing and thawing and come back again. Even lettuce in our climate, our frosts are not that hard. Lettuce can survive.
If you're growing in your yard, if you're growing in a community garden, if you're helping anywhere, you have to know who you're growing for. So you may have children in your house that want you to grow a lot of this, a lot of strawberries, a lot of this, a lot of that, but you need to figure out who are you feeding and for how long, how much of the year do you want to feed them from your garden. So of course with a community garden that I have a lot of space, and I'm very blessed to work with Ecology Action, and I have a lot of interns from all over the United States, all over the world that come and bless me with their knowledge that they bring as well from April to October, sometimes later. And the unique experience in that is that a lot of our gardening, our farming techniques are from indigenous cultures, and some of them have been forgotten, some of them haven't. And often I'll get someone in my garden who teaches me.
My name is Tom DeMarchi, and I have lived at the same address in Brook Trails at about 1,900 feet since August of 1981. There were 3 things alive in that yard. It's a standard 1/6 of an acre lot in the hills. And there were 3 builder-planted trees in the front yard, and there's nothing growing in the backyard. Basically because to build a flat building pad, they had scraped a flat part and pushed it out to make a flat backyard on the slope. So what I had was subsoil, rocks and clay, and not much of anything else. In August, unbreakable even with my grandpa's railroad pick. So it wasn't really till the next year that I got started. A crop that I had been growing and have been growing with an evolutionary experience successfully for about 40 years now, and which I think is the keystone mainstay crop of any gardener or farmer, and I brought a sample along, is compost. So anybody who has never experienced compost is welcome. This is from last fall, and this, if you make compost and add that to your soil, you will be an increasingly happy farmer and gardener. The only thing you can really do is grow healthy soil, and this is part of growing healthy soil. So feel free, if you've never seen what becomes of your orange peels and onion skins and everything else that comes out of the kitchen and leaves and whatever, this is what it is.
I am the manager for Brookside School Farm, which is located here in the valley over at the elementary school right in city limits. And we're a nonprofit farm that's a project of NCO, North Coast Opportunities. And right now we're working under a grant with the focus on improving the quality of food in the school lunch programs. And last year was my first year managing the farm. And this year is the farm's 5th year. Jason Bradford started the farm about 5 years ago, and this is my 3rd year working on the farm, 2nd year managing it now. And it's been really successful in many ways. Last year I harvested just under 3,000 pounds of tomatoes, and the vast majority of that was with the help of volunteers. And so I'm always reaching out to the community. One of our biggest challenges is having enough hands on the farm. I would love to have any of you that are interested in coming out to the farm to get some hands-on experience, come and work with me. I've got flyers up on the welcome table and on the bulletin board where you came in. So one of the goals of Brookside Farm, as I've said, is to improve the quality of food in the school lunch programs. And like Ellen said, it's great to know who your audience is, who your clientele is that you're growing for if you're a market gardener. And the kids like strawberries and the kids like peas, and we haven't been very successful at getting the school to serve kale. The second goal of Brookside Farm, besides improving the quality of food in the school lunch program, is to be an educational center. And that's where a lot of my background comes from, is in teaching. I've been a teacher at Mendocino Community College Horticulture Department, where I taught gardening classes, and agriculture classes, horticulture classes.
So we're going to talk about the killing part of gardening, and not killing plants, though that's also part. But there are three main garden eaters, and we're going to talk about them in the order of, in our opinion, of their viciousness in terms of eating your garden. And the first one is a little critter called a pocket gopher.
If you're first-time gardeners on virgin soil, you probably are not going to have this problem. The problems with soil fertility and pests increase as you garden in the same area. So if you're just starting out on a new spot, maybe you're not going to have these problems because they haven't found you yet. But if you're gardening a spot for the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 10th year, you have to deal with these things.
Gophers have an amazing set of teeth, and you can tell them from other rodents by their, I guess you could call them buck teeth. Yeah. And
they can be 1/4 to 1/2 inch long.
Yes.
They're not the only rodent with buck teeth, but they have the biggest.
right. And gophers have their own territory, and they defend their territories very aggressively. There are a whole host of traps out there. Everybody thinks they've got a good trap, but I've found that, well, 2 years ago on the Farm and Garden Show on KZYX, I heard a man who referred to himself as the gopher guy. This is a man who is a professional gopher trapper. He works in Sonoma County. He traps in vineyards. He gets $10 per gopher, and he makes an excellent living. I mean, he is actually, in fact, when I first called him, he was vacationing in the south of France during the spring. And he uses a trap called a cinch trap. This is by far, in my experience, and I've used all the traps, this is the best trap you can use. It's not, as far as I know, you can't buy it even today in Mendocino County, but it's readily available in Sonoma County at Harmony Farm Supply and the hardware store in Sebastopol. And you can probably get it other places.
That was our latest episode of This Week in Willits. The individual segments of this program were produced by local filmmakers. You don't have to be a film pro to contribute to This Week in Willits. Contact us with your ideas and find out how you or your organization can be a part of our next program. I'm Shari. Goodbye until next time.
So that's about it for now. Things are happening in Willits, as they always are, and things are changing, as they always do. Yet it's still the same familiar hometown we've all come to know and appreciate for what it is. We'd like to know what's happening with you, with your families, and the organizations which would not exist without your efforts and support. So give us a call at 459-2528 and let us know what's going on with you. Maybe you'll be a part of our next story. Keep tuned and join us next time to see what's happening this week in Willits.